بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على مبعوث رحمة العالمين سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله الهاشمي القرشي وعلى آله وأصحابه أزواجه وذريته ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته وانتهج نهجه إلى يوم الدين. تركنا على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزول عنها إلا هالك. ثم أما بعد. So alhamdulillah, we had a short break for some travel, and we are doing some commentary and looking at the Walead ulama, what our scholars have had to say about the Tafseer of the verses that correspond to surahs or chapters occurring within the particular nights of Ramadan. And we are now entering into the 25th night of Ramadan. So we didn't do the 23rd or 24th. Fortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that. But we're going to go straight to the 25th juz, and we'll be looking at Surah Shura, ayah 20 to begin with. And Surah Shura is the 42nd chapter in the Quran in terms of its order. When we're looking at it, beginning with قوله تعالى, ayah Ashrun, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من كان يريد حرث الآخرة نزل له في حرثه ومن كان يريد حرث الدنيا نؤتيه منها ما له وما له في الآخرة من نصيب. There's another verse that says ما نشاء. So من كان يريد حرث الآخرة نزل له في حرثه, translated as, if anyone desires a harvest in the life to come, we shall increase it for him. If anyone desires a harvest in this world, we shall give him a share of it, but in the hereafter he will have no share. So, as we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يضرب الأمثال ويضرب أحسن الأمثال. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the best examples and draws the best examples, and here we see an example of that. Here the word harth, commonly used to mean harth az-zira', so the harvest of a crop. And this dunya is often referred to as mazra'atun al-akhirah, as a place, a fertile plotting field for the next life. And we will then harvest and reap what we sow in the next life. And here we see the contrast between the dunya and the akhirah. من كان يريد حرث الآخرة نزل له في حرثه. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He increases, and at the very minimum, الحسنة بعشرة أمثالها, that the hasana, the one good deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can confer 10 good deeds like it in the scale of deeds, 70 good deeds like it in the scale of deeds, or 700 or 1,000 or 7,000 or more. And all of this goes back to the magnanimity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His munificence, His mercy, and for our part it requires our sincerity. So the more sincerity in the deed, and the purer it is. So what would be besides sincerity, al-ikhlas, and nukhlishu lillahi wahdahu ta'ala. Nukhlishu lillahi wahdah. So to ikhlas means to remove all impurities from something. So we want to remove impurities from our intention so that it could be solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we'll see the ziyada. Right? And we see this word ziyada a lot. Nazid here is jawab shart, right? That's why it's makzoom. So it's nazid, it's actually nazid. So it comes from ziyada. لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى وَزِيَادَةً. Surah Yunus. The ones who do ahsanu, if they do ihsan, they'll have the husna, right? Which is left unqualified. Yani you have good, so good of this life, good of the next life, good in everything, al-husna. And it could also mean beautiful. وَزِيَادَةً, and ziyada, and something more, something extra. And so this ziyada from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, its actuality, it's not really ziyada, it's not extra, but because we're limited in how we perceive things, from our perspective, it looks like a ziyada, like extra. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His karam out of His magnanimity, He can give and give and give. And Moaid al-Rahman and Khaza'in al-Rahman la tanfad. The bounties and the treasuries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the most merciful, will never be depleted. And so if they never can be depleted, then we don't even have the imagination to conceptualize or even imagine what that actually looks like. Contrastingly, من كان يريد حرث الدنيا نؤتيه منها وما له في الآخرة من نصيب. Whoever, however, is seeking the harth of the dunya, نؤتيه منها, we may give some of that to him. In other verse, نؤتيه منها ما نشاء لمن نريد. Right, so the Quran يفسر بعضه بعضا. The Quran, it makes tafsir one verse of the other. So in the other verse, نؤتيه منها ما نشاء لمن نريد, how much we want for the one we desire to give to. So this is not a prescription upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that anyone who wants something of the dunya, oh, I want a yacht, I want a mansion, I want this, I want that. Well, the Quran says نؤتيه منها. He says نؤتيه منها, from it. So not نؤتيها, not that we're going to give everything that he wants. نؤتيه منها. If you work hard enough for the dunya, then ستحصل شيء من الدنيا, you will find something of the dunya. But if that's all that you're seeking, and you're solely seeking the harth or the harvest of the dunya, ما له في الآخرة من نصيب وما له في الآخرة من نصيب, then in the akhirah they will have no nasib, they will not have an allotment, because that's kind of the way the relationship between dunya and akhirah works. Seek the akhirah and Allah will take care of your dunya for you. Seek the dunya and neglect the akhirah. In other words, neglect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, neglect your responsibilities, and you will not have any akhirah. And then the dunya that you have will be fleeting and will be unsatisfying, and will be a fitna for you. It will be a trial and a tribulation, and not a ni'mah, not a blessing. So Allah can give you a lot of dunya, right? And the verse hopefully we're going to get to later, we'll see that why Allah doesn't give a lot of dunya to everybody, but Allah can give you a lot of dunya to you. But it could be a blessing if you're thankful and you use it in the right way, or it could be a fitna, a trial and tribulation, if even one iota of it was procured via haram means, or the way that you spend it, sarf, right? إن المبذرين كانوا إخوان الشياطين ولا تبذروا تبذيرا. So التبذير means to spend not frivolously or not too much, but to spend in the wrong way, right? So even if you spend $1 or 1 dirham or 1 riyal in something that's haram, something that is prohibited by the Sharia, then that's a niqmah, that's a trial, that's a tribulation for you. And if you spend $1 billion fi sabilillah, that's not tabthir, right? That's infaq, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you many, many times over from that, whether in the dunya or whether in the akhirah. So the concept that they emphasize is work on your akhirah, and it may seem that your dunya will suffer, and it may, in the sense that your akhirah means that you seek the dunya in the halal mean, in the halal way, in the halal means, and that which is tayyib, halal and tayyib, that which is pure, that which is sanctioned by the sacred law, by the Sharia. And maybe then you won't make as much money, or you won't make as many profits, and you won't, be able to influence people in the way that to get the things that you want, and maybe you'll have less. But when you have less, you actually have more. When you have kafaf, when you have all that you need to cover your basic needs, you have more. Right? And this was the rizq of Ali Muhammad and Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what he asked Allah for. ثم يقول الله عز وجل أم لهم شركاء شرعوا لهم من الدين ما لم يأذن به الله ولولا كلمة الفصل لقضي بينهم وإن الظالمين لهم عذاب أليم ترى الظالمين مشفقين مما كسبوا وهو واقع بهم والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات في روضات الجنات لهم ما يشاءون عند ربهم ذلك هو الفضل الكبير. So this ayah, or a few ayahs in translation. How can they believe in others who ordain for them things which God has not sanctioned in the practice of their faith? If it were not for God's decree concerning the final decision, judgment would already have been made between them. The evildoers will have a grievous punishment. You will see them fearful because of what they have done. Punishment is bound to fall on them. But those who believe and do good deeds will be in the lush meadows of the gardens. They will have whatever they wish from their Lord. This is the great bounty. So this is kind of supporting what we said, the verses that came right before this. أَمْ لَهُمْ شُرَكَاءُ شَرَعَ لَهُم مِّنَ الدِّينِ مَا لَمْ يَأْذِن بِهِ اللَّهُ. So the people who transgress and who deny وَجَحَدُوا بِالْآيَاتِ حَتَّى اسْتَيْقَنُوهَا. Even though they're certain of the signs, and this is talking about the mushrikeen of Quraysh and the disbelievers of Quraysh, Allah is asking in kind of what we call it tahakkum, mocking them. أَمْ لَهُمْ شُرَكَاءُ شَرَعُوا لَهُم مِّنَ الدِّينِ مَا لَمْ يَأْذِن بِهِ اللَّهُ. Do they have any partners that will or believe in, that will ordain for them things, God, which Allah has not sanctioned in the practice of their faith? On what basis do they maintain this certainty of their belief and the certainty of that which they follow? Do they have shuraka? Am shara'u lahum? Am lahum shuraka? Shara'u lahum min ad-din, that have made this available for them? Ma lam ya'zin bihi Allah. ولولا كلمة الفصل لقضي بينهم. Right? And if it was not for كلمة الفصل, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so decreed, it would have happened right in the instant. لقضي بينهم. Right? Then it would have been made clear and manifest. وَإِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. But Allah does not decide according to what people want. Allah decides according to how He sees it, how He wants it, and according to His pre-eternal knowledge. And it was not in Allah's pre-eternal knowledge that the adhab will come down immediately as soon as they transgress. They're given a pause. وَإِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. But they will have لهم, يعني يستحق لهم. They are deserving of the adhab al-alim, al-zalimun. تَرَى الظَّالِمِينَ مُشْفِقِينَ مِمَّا كَسَبُوا. This is now when it comes upon them in the akhirah. تَرَى الظَّالِمِينَ مُشْفِقِينَ. الإشفاق من الشيء الخوف. So they're afraid and they are feeling sorry for themselves also. مِمَّا كَسَبُوا. From that which they have reaped, they have earned. وَهُوَ وَاقِعٌ بِهِمْ. Right? And it is coming upon them. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فِي رَوْضَاتِ الْجَنَّاتِ. But the people who believed and did the salihat and did the good deeds, في روضات الجنات. Right? Al-Rawda is the garden, the lush garden, the most beautiful place in the garden. So Rawdat, many of these lush and beautiful places in a manner we cannot even imagine. لَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. They will have that which they desire with their Lord. And it said that in the Jannah there's nothing that you can think of that you cannot have. All you have to do is you don't even have to outstretch your hand. It will be there. لَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. ذَلِكَ هُوَ الْفَضْلُ الْكَبِيرُ. This is the Fadl al-Kabir. This is the great bounty, the great grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the greater grace is that in having anything that you desire from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not the thing that you can desire, but it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted you such a gift. So it is the Atiyya min al-Rahman. It is the gift from the Rahman, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the real gift that is coming from Him. In other words, His rida, Allah will be pleased. Right? And when all the last people entered paradise, He said, لا أسخط عليكم بعد اليوم. I will not have no disappointment or dislike for anything after this day. You have all been into the paradise. روضات الجنات. ذلك هو الفضل الكبير. This is the great fadl. This is the great bounty, the great virtue. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says after that, ذلك الذي يبشر الله عباده الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى ومن يقترف حسنة نزد له فيها حسنا إن الله غفور شكور. It is of this that God gives good news to His servants who believe and do good deeds. So that sentence goes along with, it's a different ayah, but it goes along with the concept from before. It is of this that God gives good news to His servants. This is the bishara, right? That's the real grace. And this bishara for those who fulfill the covenant and the command with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To those who believe and do the good deeds. Then he says to the Prophet ﷺ, say, I ask no reward from you for this, only the affection due to kin. إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. If anyone does good, we shall increase it for him. God is most forgiving and most appreciative. So some of the mushrikeen, they said the sabab al-nuzul, they said, what does Muhammad want from all of this? Does he want ataya on his da'wah? What's his motivation? And this is how people tend to look at other people's motivation based upon their own motivations. So if you don't have a pure and a forgiving heart, then it's very difficult to see other people as pure and forgiving. And so you're always going to look for a hidden agenda, a hidden motive. What's the catch? Why are you doing this? There must be something you're getting out of it, that sort of thing. And for them, they couldn't fathom that he's doing it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, commanded him to do it, and he's not seeking he doesn't want anything from you. He actually wants things for you. That's the whole thing. The true prophet and the man of praise, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never wanted anything from anybody. He wanted things for them. And those who follow in the footsteps and follow and take on the mantle and the legacy of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they should also be the same in their da'wah. They should want things for people, not from people. And so that means if they find hidayah because of something they said or did, or guidance from someone else, it doesn't matter, because that doesn't change the fact that they want things for them, not from them. But if you're looking for things from people, and if you're looking for validation or appreciation or accolades and so forth, then you will be affected whether it comes they appreciate you or acknowledge somebody else. But the true Muhammadan heir wants things for people, and at the same time, they don't get angry at people, they get angry for people. So they're not angry at you because you've made a slight towards them, but they see what you're doing and you're hurting yourself. And so they're angry for you. They want you to see better for you, not because it's something that affects them in a way that is personal, and so they take it personally, your transgression. No, this is called shafaqa. This is rahmah and compassion. إِنَّمَا أَنَا رَحْمَةٌ مُهْدَاةٌ. I am a mercy that has been sent as a guidance. So then he was instructed to say this from the Quran. Remember when we said, when the Quran is speaking in the second person, it's talking to our Prophet ﷺ. Kul, say. So this is a comparative command, singular, second person, speaking to the Prophet ﷺ. Kul la as'alukum alayhi ajran illa al-mawaddata fil qurba. Say to them, right? La as'alukum alayhi ajran. I'm not seeking reward. Illa al-mawaddata fil qurba. Except, let's go back to translation. I ask no reward from you for this, only the affection due to kin. So some of the Mufassirun said this is istisna munqata'a. What that means is that his affection for his kin is not an exception. It means rather, I don't want any reward, anything monetary or anything like that, but what Allah has commanded me to ask for is affection, al-mawadda fil qurba, right, for kin, or due to kin. And there are various meanings and interpretations that have been attached to this particular verse. Some of them said that here al-qurba, right, means ay wajha min al-qiraba, so any sort of relation to the Prophet ﷺ. So that could mean also the muttaqeen, and it could mean al-muhsinin, al-mu'minin, al-muslimin. All of those people are from the qurba, al-mawadda fil qurba. So treat people who are right correctly, have affection for them, don't transgress against them. And some of them saw a more specific meaning of Ahlul Bayt, or of the household of the Prophet ﷺ. Then we have the various opinions about who Ahlul Bayt are. And one particular narration indicates even the Prophet ﷺ was asked about this verse, and he said, who are you talking about when you say Ahlul Qurba? He said, Ali wa Fatima wa ibnahuma. He said Ali and Fatima and their two sons. And this hadith was narrated by Tabarani, and also mentioned by Imam al-Suyuti. It's not in the strongest category of hadith, but the meaning also is true. The hadith that talk about Fadl al-Bayt, the hadith that talk about the virtue of the people of the household of the Prophet ﷺ, whether we take them to mean specifically the progeny of Ali and Fatima via Hassan and Hussein, radiallahu anhum, or we take it to mean also Bani al-Abbas or Bani al-Talib or Bani Hashim, or from the tribe, the greater tribe of the Prophet ﷺ, which was kind of the earlier opinion. All of those we can say are Ahlul Bayt in one sense or the other. And the ulama said there are many ahadith, both very good hadith and some weak hadith, but all hadith that are mu'tabar, that are to be considered in having this mawaddah, this compassion and this love for Ahlul Bayt. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Hussein minni wa ana min al-Hussein. That's hadith sharif, sahih. That Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. And he said, whoever loves Fatima loves me, and whoever loves me loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we find this. And it's not a tribalism here, and it's not this kind of the Prophet ﷺ talking specific about his family members. But it also shows us that when you love the Prophet ﷺ, then you should love the things that he loves. And since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the Prophet ﷺ, that means that also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves Ahlul Bayt. Right, and that establishment of that relationship of things like that is very important. And by the same token, we love the Sahaba, we love the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And so it's a bit of a sort of spiritual schizophrenia, for lack of a better word, if you love the Ahlul Bayt and somehow despise the Sahaba, the companions, or you love the companions but you despise Ahlul Bayt. And we've had both of these maladies within our ummah, and they even continue to this day. But the complete believer loves the Sahaba, loves the companions, and loves Ahlul Bayt, and loves the household of the Prophet ﷺ. And there's no contradiction in that. And you're not a Musaybi or Rafidi or any of the words that they talk about because you emphasize the love of the household of the Prophet ﷺ, or you love the Prophet, of the Prophet's companions ﷺ. They're both for the same reason, in that they are people that the Prophet ﷺ loved. So how can we pick and choose the ones who are going to love? This would be clearly a transgression against the Prophet ﷺ. He would not be pleased with us not loving Abu Bakr and Umar and Aisha and Ibn Umar and all the rest of the Sahaba. And also he would not be pleased if we didn't love Al-Hasan or Hussein and their progeny, Zayn al-Abidin and Musa al-Qadim and Sayyidina Ja'far al-Sadiq, Ali al-Ubaydi, and all of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt and the families, and Sittina Zainab, Sittina Nafisa, right, and Fatima al-Zahra, radiallahu anha, ummuna. So that means we love them all. If there happened something that happened between them while they were alive, well, they're also human beings, and human beings, they're not prophets, they're companions, and they're lofty companions, but sometimes issues arise even between people who love one another, and we shouldn't let that furqa or that particular niza also tahkumna, right? It shouldn't be something that also kind of thrusts itself upon us. We don't have to accept that scenario. We love Ahlul Bayt, we hymn their praises. Even those who are still from Ahlul Bayt today, we should see them in that way. Some of the Imams, they said that if someone from Ahlul Bayt, and you know for certain he's from that and they're a Muslim, and they do something that's harmful to you, that doesn't absolve them of that sin, but the way that we react should be something like treat it like a nazila, treat it like a flood or an earthquake or something like that. Don't seek retribution. If you do not seek retribution based upon your love of the Prophet ﷺ, you will be rewarded immensely for that. And this was also the madhab of Imam Malik, one of the great Imams of Ahl Sunnah. And this is his madhab, even very personally, he did this. As we know, the local provincial leader or mayor, governor of Medina, took Imam Malik and punished him severely publicly and had him lashed publicly. There's some interpretations about why that happened. Generally, it goes back to a particular fatwa he gave that about how the forced someone who's compelled to divorce someone doesn't count, and they took that to mean that the forced bay'ah when there was some corruption in Bani Umayyah, the Umayyad dynasty, and people sometimes took the bay'ah and they felt compelled to do so. So they felt that this was kind of questioning the legitimacy of the rulership of Bani Umayyah. And so the local governor took him out and lashed him publicly, and Imam Malik was hurt. And when the Khalifa found out about this, either Ja'far al-Mansur or Harun al-Rashid, I don't remember which one, and both of them loved Imam Malik. They were father and son. Both of them loved Imam Malik very much, and they would visit him and they would listen to his classes. And even Harun, as a young man, would sit in on the classes of Imam Malik. So they had great respect and love for Imam Malik. When he found out about this, he said to Imam Malik, I will take retribution upon him. That's not allowed. He was going to be punished severely. And Imam Malik told him, no, I don't want that. He said, there was not a lash that I received at his hands, except that I was seeking forgiveness for him because he's from the house of the Prophet ﷺ. And he was Abbasi, right? Not even from the children of Hassan or Hussein, but he was from Bani Abbas, right? Which are the, when I said the Umayyads, the Abbasids. So all of them were the Abbasids, were the ones who were in charge at the time. So he said, he's from Bani Abbas, and they have a relationship to the Prophet ﷺ at al-Bayt. So I did not receive the lash, except that I sought forgiveness on his behalf. And this was the love of Imam Malik, not just for his love of the Prophet ﷺ, extended even to the very ground that the Prophet ﷺ walked upon. He would not tread or get on his mount inside the confines of Medina, except he would go take the horse or the camel outside and not ride it inside. And it's also mentioned that he would walk barefoot in Medina, because this is the ground. It was sacred ground to him, and it was sacred because the Prophet ﷺ had stepped on that very ground, and so did the Sahaba, and so he saw the whole place as being very sacred because of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's why he preferred Medina over Mecca, even in terms of virtue, contrary to the majority of the rest of the Imams, because this is the place that the Prophet ﷺ migrated to, and that where he still is, and he's interred in under the Quba Sharif al-Khadra, the sacred green dome, where he still rests today, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this Mu'adaf al-Qurba then is from the deen. It is an essential aspect of the deen, and no one can deny that. وَمَنْ يَقْتَرِفْ حَسَنَةً نَزِدْ لَهُ فِيهَا حُسْنًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And whoever does good, we shall increase it for him. God is most forgiving and most appreciative, right? Confirming the meaning that came before, but perhaps also to this particular verse. And it's also from the Sunnah to follow the scholarly from Ahlul Bayt, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said that تَرَكْتُ فِيكُمْ مَا إِن تَمَسَّكْتُمْ بِهِمَا لَن تَضِلُّوا بَعْدِي أَبَدًا كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَعِتْرَةِ أَهْلِ بَيْتِي. He said, I have left for you two things. If you stick to them, you'll not go astray after me. The book of God, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the sunnah of my Ahlul Bayt, the beauty of my Ahlul Bayt. So that is referring to the Imam from them. So people like Sayyidina Hassan wa Hussein, they're not just grandsons of the Prophet ﷺ, they're also our spiritual forefathers, right? The spirit, the Prophet ﷺ had a spiritual line that ran through not just his progeny, but also through the Sahaba. And the political Khilafah took a different turn after Sayyidina al-Hassan, who was the last Khalifa, right? After Sayyidina Ali was killed, and then they bay'ah Sayyidina al-Hassan, and then there was the Sayyidina al-Hassan Tanazal. He abdicated in favor of Muawiyah to avoid bloodshed, and then it turned into a tribal dynasty after that, which was not what the Prophet ﷺ would have wanted, but that's what happened. So then the spiritual kind of path took a different way via the line and transmitted via the ulama for the al-amilin. So the ulama who did what they and practiced what they preached, and many of them were for Ahlul Bayt and many were not. And so we consider those people to be our spiritual heirs, and many of them studied with Ahlul Bayt. Abu Hanifa himself said that I didn't really have or something to the effect of what I knew about Allah until I spent time with Ja'far as-Sadiq, right, who's a great grandson of the Imams of Al-Hasan of Sayyidina Hussein. And also Imam Malik also spent time with Sayyidina Ja'far al-Sadiq in Medina. So we take our knowledge from them, and we take our love that we have for them, and that goes back to our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Then the next verse, أم يقولون افترى على الله كذبا فإن يشاء الله يختم على قلبك ويمحو الله الباطل ويحق الحق بكلماته إنه عليم بذات الصدور وهو الذي يقبل التوبة عن عباده ويعفو عن السيئات ويعلم ما تفعلون ويستجيب الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات ويزيدهم من فضله والكافرون لهم عذاب شديد. And then there was the one verse, I'll just read in Arabic, we'll go through quickly. ولو بسط الله الرزق لعباده لبغوا في الأرض ولكن ينزل بقدر ما يشاء وإنه بعباده خبير بصير. So beginning with verse 24. How can they say he has invented a lie about God? They said this about the Prophet ﷺ of Quraysh, of Mushrikeen. If God so willed, he could seal your heart and blot out lies. God confirms the truth with his words. He has full knowledge of what is in the heart. And there's some different interpretations on the meaning of that verse as well. Verse number 24. أم يقولون افترى على الله كذبا فإن يشاء الله يختم على قلبك ويمحو الله الباطل. So it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the interpretations is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to grant the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam this instant victory and hujjah and proof right then and there, he could have. But Allahu, in the verse that comes after, يمحو الله الباطل ويحق الحق بكلماته. Right, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has the ability, he can erase the batil and make it go away. ويحق الحق بكلماته, and he can actualize the truth and confirm the truth with his words. And he has full knowledge of what is in the heart. And so this is, we say, min bab al-hikmah. So the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is he will send prophets, and people call them liars, and people call them majameen, and people call them insane, and people call them soothsayers, and people say that someone is teaching them, and his name is Rahman, and he lives in al-Yamama. And as has come from the prophets before, and no sooner did the Bani Israel cross the Red Sea with Musa alayhi salam, and he went to the burning bush, and where Allah spoke to him, and he comes back and he finds them worshipping a golden calf from the gold that they had taken from their pharaonic slave masters, and then melted down and built this golden calf based upon the treachery of a Samiri. All of these things, there is a hikmah, there is a wisdom. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed. And don't ever lose sight of the fact. The verse is telling us, Allah yuhiqqa al-haq bi kalimati. He makes the truth known with his words. Wa yamhu al-batil. Right? And he can erase the batil. But for the hikmah, for the wisdom, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not show us all of his qudrah here, all of his power. He could easily do that. But everything is done in a way because al-qudrah musahaba bil-hikmah. The way he executes things, the way he does things, there's also hikmah, wisdom behind it. He didn't create the world in an instant as he could have. He took, as the Quran mentions in a few verses, 6 days, right? And not a day like our day, a completely different day, a day that's like 1,000 years. And this also, there's a lesson for it. So everything that has been revealed, then there's a wisdom behind it that actually is for more or less our benefit. It's for us to learn, it's for us to contemplate, it's for us to consider. And then that last verse that I told you I wanted to talk a little bit more about, which was verse number 27. ولو بسط الله الرزق لعباده لبغوا في الأرض ولكن ينزل بقدر ما يشاء إنه بعباده خبير بصير. So the verse before that is talking about Tawbah. الله يقبل عن ويستجيب الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات ويزيد من فضله والكافرون لهم عذاب شديد. والله هو الذي يقبل التوبة عن عباده. He is the one who accepts the Tawbah عن عباده. right? He accepts the tawbah from his ibad, and tawbah has many things we can say about it, but here just the ishara in the verse, it didn't say min ibadihi, it says an ibadihi. He takes the tawbah anhum, which is hard to translate. I think even though the translator said he accepts repentance. So his accepting of repentance is mean, yani, azala anka ashya. So an means to, that particular preposition means to remove things from something. So the true tawbah nasuh means it's like Allah removed that thing that you did that was wrong and it's no longer there. يقبل عن عباده التوبة كان عباده ويعفو عن السيئات ويعلم ما تفعلون, right? ويعفو عن السيئات, and he forgives the sayyi'at, and he knows all that, and he's well acquainted all of that we would do. ويستجيب الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات ويزيدهم من فضله, and he makes istijaba, he answers the people who believe and do the righteous deeds. ويزيدهم من فضله, more ziyada, and he increases them in grace. والكافرون لهم عذاب شديد, and the disbelievers will have a strict punishment. Some of them said to Ibrahim ibn Adham, one of the great ascetics of the Ummah, how come when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the verse says, يَسْتَجِيبُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, he's not answering us the way that we thought. He said to them, did you answer him first? Did you answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? هَلْ أَسْتَجَبْتَ لَهُ? And then حَتَّى يَسْتَجِيبَ لَكَ, because that's how what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects. If you raise your hands in dua and you're not answering the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to begin with, like when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about the man, his malbas and his ma'kal, and all the things about him is from haram. Then he said, أَنَّ يُسْتَجَابَ لَهُ, how is his dua supposed to be answered when he hasn't answered Allah? So we have to answer Allah first. And then that verse, وَلَبَسَطَ اللَّهُ الرِّزْقَ لِعِبَادِهِ لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to grant his plentiful provision to all his creatures, they would act insolently on earth, but he sends down in due measure whatever he will, for he is well aware of his servants and watchful over them. So here is kind of the commanding verse about how come we can't all be Jeff Bezos and and Bill Gates and have all of this wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of doing that. Wouldn't life be easier? Wouldn't it be better? Well, he tells us the result. لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ, if they were to do that, they were to act insolently on earth. Imagine if we have just one Jeff Bezos. Imagine we have like 10 of them. Can we imagine how much more corruption would be on the face of the earth? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps things in the balance, and he keeps things in the balance for you, right? Because maybe it's not the right thing for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you what's right for you. And so maybe wealth is right for you, maybe it's not. The previous dars we had today, Fath Rabbani, we said that wealth is a blessing to you if you use it right and you are grateful. Or it can be a niqmah or a fitna. It can be a trial or tribulation if you spend even $1 of it in the wrong way. Then it's a trial and tribulation in that one particular dollar that you spend. But if you spend $1 billion for Allah and according to the confines of the Sharia, then it's all ni'am. It's all blessings, inshallah. And poverty can either be a blessing for you or it could be a fitna. So it can be a blessing for you if you are patient, right? And Allah raises you in ranks, and inshallah will give you something better, whether in this life or the next. Or it could be a fitna, or it could be a trial and tribulation to you if you're not patient with it, and then you start to question God and question his hikmah and question his wisdom and question everything about yourself. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, ما أشبه الفقر بالقفر أو الفقر بالكفر أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. How close is it? Poverty is to disbelief, right? Because for some people, their poverty will take them to disbelief because they're not patient. It will take them that route. وَلَعَذَ اللَّهُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ, but also Allah protect us from that. بارك الله فيكم في القرآن العظيم ونفع الله بعلومه وعلوم المشايخ وعلوم سيدنا صلى الله عليه وسلم في الدارين آمين. أسعد الله أوقاتكم وأسعد الله أموركم وجعل البركة في سائر أموركم وفي أوقاتكم وفي أولادكم وفي بيوتكم. May Allah continue to bless all of you and bless all of us and give us the blessings and the nafahat of this blessed month as we wind down in it. And may He give us the himmah and the aspiration to continue to the very end of it, and seeking only Him and none but Him. Azza wa Jal. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.